You are listening to Wild Wednesdays, a podcast dedicated to spark that wild in you. Okay, so tell us about some of the magic that happens at CRC.
So the CRC, our mission is to promote the conservation of crocodiles, their habitat, and adjacent wildlife through conservation, research, education, and community involvement throughout Central America, as well as the Caribbean, as we are expanding outside of Belize. And right now, I see it, and especially because yesterday I had to go into a cave system to check on crocodiles in an area where they bring tourists for cave tubing.
Okay.
And one of the things that when you say, like, tell us about the magic of CRC, I think one of the one things that I can say has been magical within the last several years is how we have been able to get communities or people who are terrified of crocodiles, don't want to see a crocodile, how all of a sudden their mindset shifts where I'm not saying that they love crocodiles. We're not trying to make people love crocodiles, but what we are trying to do is to squash these misguided beliefs and these false facts about these animals where people see their importance ecologically as well as culturally. And I really do think our method and our staff having passion, I think that's so important in regards of getting communities and getting people behind your mission, is that those that are at the forefront need to have passion. And that is exactly what my team and my volunteers have. And so through that, we've been able to get people and communities to embrace crocodiles, become croc wise. They are the ambassadors of the animals. And that's been pretty amazing in such a short period of time the CRC has been established.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's awesome that just working with any kind of predator, it's important to change people's view of these predators.
Yeah, and it's really important. And I have to say, coming from the United States and working at a sanctuary, working at a zoo, one thing that I felt is that there was a lot of preaching. You preach to people, and you don't realize that, but that's what you're being taught, to preach to people. And people don't like to be preached to. They don't want someone coming down at them where they feel like they are inferior and that you're superior to them. And it wasn't really until I started working in Belize and identifying, why I see people trying to educate about crocodiles, but it's just not working. It's just not working at all. And then I took a back seat and I realized, you need to have conversations with people. People need to come to the table as equals, and everyone comes together to find a solution and to discuss why they hate crocodiles, why they're so afraid of these predators, to really get to understand what the root of the problem is. It's, because right now there's a lot of the fears. It's superficial. I don't like crocodiles. Well, why? And then you get down to the root. Well, it's because of what I saw in a movie. It's scary and they eat people. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's because the news article says our waters are infested with crocodiles. It's that negative language. And it's like, one, crocodiles can't infest waters. That's where they live. It's the other way around. But the other thing that we've learned is, and it's something where, to understand where we are presently in conservation, we need to understand the past, because the past has brought us to where we are now, whether good or bad. And from there, we can make the most appropriate steps forward where we can ensure the success of long-term conservation efforts as well as coexistence. And one thing that we really have gotten to the root of is how, especially with predators, how a lot of our fears, how a lot of our hatred, even if people have even seen these animals. I mean, I've met people that hate crocodiles and they've never seen one. And they're just like, to me, I'm like, how can you hate something if you've never seen it?
Absolutely.
but a lot of it stems from colonization.
Mhm.
And and it's one of those things, especially Belize being a country that was colonized by the English. I know sometimes that can be a difficult subject to be brought up. It's almost taboo. But the problem is, you know what? History and all societies and all civilizations, there's a dark past. And if we're going to move forward, heal from it, learn from it, we got to talk about it. And so we discuss about how colonization, and this is not just for crocodiles, this goes with a lot of predators around the world. Colonization is a main root for the issues we face with predators today.
Mhm.
One of the reasons is you have people from a foreign land coming to, let's say, Belize. They have already wiped out all their major predators. They come to a new place, large snakes, you got jaguars, you got crocodiles, sharks. This is fearful for the newcomers because they have not learned how to coexist with these animals. And
Absolutely.
so, just out of fear, you just kill.
Mhm.
And then as you move forward with colonization, so already, and so the stories of the big scary reptiles or the big cat that was going after people, and guess what? Jaguars, there's never been an attack on a person by a jaguar in the wild. And so it's just, in Belize, we're not its prey. And so it's, they take these stories back to Europe of these scary animals. So that starts creating already the fear amongst the Europeans, let's say.
Mhm. Yeah.
As colonization continues, you remove people, so the people of the land, you remove them from managing the land. You start assimilating them more into your culture, so they start losing their connection. They start losing that traditional knowledge and traditional education about how to coexist with these animals, but also just the cultural connection.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they lose that, and now you have generations of where people have lost that ecological and cultural connection. They've assimilated the fear of the foreign culture or the colonialist, and that is where you get a lot of roots. And then I also understand with predators, wherever it was, whether it was the thylacine in Tasmania and Australia, again, crocodiles all over the world, coyotes, lions, and
Mhm.
tigers. People start killing them because of protecting their livestock. But a lot of that was like, well, let's just kill them despite sheep not being taken or cattle not being taken. And so this has just, a lot of our fear is just rooted in poor education and initial fear by people not from the land. And so one thing that we have done that has been successful is we've dug into the original Mesoamerican cultures here in regards of their connection with crocodiles. So we're going back to the Olmecs, the Toltecs, the Zoltecs, Aztecs, and then to the Maya. And what we have found is that crocodiles were highly revered
Mhm.
by these ancient societies. And I mean, you even look at Egypt, you look at Papua New Guinea, you look at various cultures around the world, crocodiles are revered. They are not feared. People, yes, they understood that they could do harm, but overall, there was a respect for this very powerful and majestic animal. And in Mesoamerican society, in this ancient society, crocodilians were considered the creators of the world. And now they're even finding in archaeological sites cities in the shape of crocodiles. And you don't see that with any other animal. Uh, and so they were highly revered. And even with the ancient Maya, they were highly revered. But all this reverence, all this coexistence, all this spirituality was wiped out
Mhm.
via colonization. So when we provide our education, we bring in this cultural knowledge that's been lost, because when you provide that to people, there's almost a deeper meaning and a connection where you want to protect the animal, because at that point then that animal is part of your culture. your heritage, you're linked to your family, you're linked to your ancestors. And I explain this to people that are in the United States in regards of, imagine if a bald eagle went extinct. How would Americans feel?
They would be pretty wiped out.
Yeah, that's a stab in the heart.
Mhm.
And so that's what we kind of discuss in regards of crocodiles. And it's like, yes, the crocodile is not, the animal of the country, but it's like losing any animal. It's not just a loss to the ecosystem, it's a loss to us as well. And
Absolutely.
making more of that personal connection has seemed to really garnish more and foster more support for the work that we've done in a very short period of time.
Absolutely. That was probably the deepest answer I've ever had anybody tell me about crocodiles. That's exactly why I wanted to talk to you. It's true, though. It's so important. There's a very spiritual history that goes behind it, and just it's important to understand the history of colonization, like you said. I agree.
Absolutely.
What is it? So why crocodiles? Like, what got you so inspired by crocodiles?
Oh, wow. So I blame my father for getting me into crocodiles. And it goes back to when I was 5 years old. I can't remember if it was my birthday or Christmas, but I just remember my father giving me this flat stack, and I wanted a Barbie doll or I wanted a My Little Pony. And he just gives me this flat stack and it's $3. It's a book about the American Civil War. It is a book about Egyptian hieroglyphics, and then it's also a book about sharks.
Mhm.
And that book about sharks, I became fascinated by predators. My family already saw that I had a love for animals, but I became fascinated with sharks. I read that book inside and out. When I was about 7, I could have told you every shark species, their diet, their endangered status. I loved sharks. I really thought I was going to study great white sharks. That was my goal. I was going to be a marine biologist, studying great white sharks, swimming with them, illustrating to people that it's not like Jaws and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I was 15, I was in high school, and at that point, all the girls at my school, because I went to an all-girl Catholic school,
Mhm.
all the girls knew I was going to be this crazy adventurer, working with animals. And I remember a girl coming up to my locker, and she was like, Marissa, because I didn't have cable at that time, and she came up to me and said, there's this crazy Australian guy, and he is trying to save crocodiles. He's trying to tell people how important crocodiles are. You should really watch him. He's like up your alley when it comes. He's like, how much you love sharks, that's how this guy loves crocodiles. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to watch that show. And then I did finally see a show of Steve Irwin, and his passion and his love, it just transcended into me. And I honestly was like, crocodiles. That's it. It's crocodiles. That's the animal. And I have to say, and it's kind of funny, like the researchers in my generation, I don't know why it is, but I'm finding it where some of them years ago, they all told me they got into working with crocodiles because of Steve Irwin. And some of them are like, oh no, I don't, like the same people are like, oh no, I just liked crocodiles. I was like, no, it's because of Steve Irwin. Okay, it's fine. It's fine, And I'm like, it was Steve Irwin. That's exactly why I got into this, And so he, besides his children, but the majority of people I know, he definitely had an impact and legacy where so many of us are doing what we're doing because of him now, So that's exactly why I got into crocodiles.
That's amazing. That is, I agree with that. Steve Irwin is in my heart forever too.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What are some of the challenges in conservation that you face?
A lot of challenges. I kind of talked about it a little bit already, is having to constantly combat these misguided beliefs and these false facts about crocodiles. It is a daily challenge. It's getting easier and easier, I feel, within my community, because we have done so much outreach. We're constantly on social media, spreading the facts and education, that we have a lot of community members teaching others as well,
Mhm.
educating others. But I do find that's been a challenge, is having to combat the misguided facts that's again stem from colonization, Hollywood, poor journalism, and kind of tied into that is influencers and YouTubers,
Mhm.
because a lot of the big ones, the ones that have thousands, maybe even close to a million followers, I'm going to tell you right now, if you are boots on the ground scientists and conservationists, you can't post much because you're busy actually working and doing the work.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of us that are the boots on the ground conservationists, it is a slap in the face when these influencers or YouTubers are saying that they're conservationists and how they handle animals and the stress that they put on these animals,
Mhm.
and they're not providing great education, and you have young kids looking at them as they are the experts in this field. That's been hard to battle as well, because ever so often, whether I get a student or visitors and they're like, well, I saw this or this influencer said that, and I just want to pull my hair out because I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not right. That's not conservation. That's not right education. And I think in going with that too is in regards to conservation. I gave a talk not too long ago at a conference, and I did ask people, are you in conservation? I was like, are you in this for your ego, or do you actually want to make a difference in the world? Because as I have gained or matured in my years of doing this for almost 2 decades now, there are people that like wildlife. There are people that want to see certain animals saved. They're interested in the preservation of a species, but they're more interested in their ego. They're more interested in how they look. They are more interested in how many followers they can get. They're not really in conservation. They don't actually care to truly make a difference, because if they did, they would go about things a different way. So
Yeah.
that's something else that we have to combat in conservation as well. In regards of Hollywood, like sometimes Animal Planet or some of the other channels is, I get it. It has to be entertaining, but sometimes the sensationalization, despite it being a program to promote conservation or the education of an animal, how it's edited or how they portray things, it's actually harming the animal more in regards to perception. So that's something that we have to battle ever so often. I have consulted on some shows, and I am constantly the hammer about, like, can you please not say that? Can you, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, like, or you can't do this. It's because it is, I get it, we can be entertaining, but let's do it in a way that is portraying this species in a better light as well. So that's some of the stuff that we have to face in conservation. Of course, we also have to, the lack of resources, whether that's financial or the manpower. That's something that we see in Belize a lot. The Crocodile Research Coalition, we are a nonprofit, and we have various avenues to try to bring some type of income. Of course, people can donate to us. We host student courses. We do tours of our facility and our crocs. We have merchandise. So that's something I know a lot of conservationists, we face a lot of struggles, and it has to tie in with the finances. If we don't have the finances, then we can't do the work. And it's one of those where a lot of us that are the boots on the ground, or those that are just supporting us, or are in a job that's related to conservation. I mean, technically, we're trying to save the world. All of us that are in this, we are trying to save the world, and somehow corporations are not pouring money into saving the world, and if the world dies, so does the corporations. You know what I mean? So it's also trying to battle sometimes these negative thoughts about conservationists,
Mhm.
or the world of conservationists, and trying to get more support and realizing this doesn't have to be an us versus you. Like, we're all in this together. We're all going to suffer together.
Mhm.
We're the ones that want to help, heal some wounds. So why not help us do it?
Absolutely. And you guys offer some really awesome programs. I went and looked at the virtual internship. If you can't make it out to Belize, you got other kinds of internships. You guys are really, really like spreading the word and the message and really working hard to get conservation out there and people to take it seriously too. I really appreciate that. What other kind of programs do you have for people to get started in actual real conservation?
Yeah, so we developed, we had an internship program and we decided to turn it more into a wildlife course. Yes, it's still kind of, you still get the experience as an intern, but I feel now that we've turned it into more of a course, it's a little bit more stabilized, a little bit more rigorous, and I think you get more out of it.
Mhm.
So this is our Wildlife Research Education and Conservation course, also known as the REC course. You can do a 2-week program or you can do a month program. We offer it every other month, and every other month it's a little bit different, and it's because it aligns with the life history of crocodiles and some other animals here. So
Okay.
for those that are really interested in crocodile nesting ecology, it would be really great to take our April and our June course, because we'll be
Mhm.
focusing a little bit more on nesting season of the American amorelet's crocodile. If you're really into wildlife coexistence, wildlife education, community outreach, then you should take our rec course during the month of Croctober or October. As that month, we do still some research, but we focus more on community outreach during that month. You know,
Okay.
so during these courses too, we do drone surveys to look at manatees. We analyze game camera traps. We conduct terrestrial surveys. During migratory bird season, we're doing bird surveys. So it goes beyond just crocodiles, because really at the end of the day, you can't really just save one species because
Mhm.
of the ecological dynamics and the links every animal has with everything within its ecosystem. So that's why we have expanded beyond um, just the crocodiles.
Gotcha. Okay. That
And then within the year, it's so funny. I can't remember. It's either
makes,
twice a year or 3 times a year, we do offer a hybrid course. So those that want to save some money but still want to get some on-site experience or field experience, what this course is that the first 2 weeks of the month, it's just virtual courses, virtual presentations, and then the last 2 weeks of the month you'll be here in Belize and we'll do a lot of field stuff. So that's our hybrid course. And then we do have a rec course in Dominican Republic, as we're initiating a satellite station out there, and that one's just a summer program. And there's more information on that. And like you said, we have our virtual internship in online. And then for those that, let's say you're just like, I want to come to Belize, I don't want to do anything intensive, but I'd like to help out a little bit, then we also just have like basic volunteering options too.
amazing. That's so amazing. I love all those options. Do you have any spiritual experiences with crocodiles or just anything in particular that you would like to share?
Ooh, I guess I have two, I guess you can say.
Okay.
Oh, or maybe I can give you a third story as well, because that one was pretty intense. It's not necessarily a spiritual one. I mean, I guess some people might say it was a spiritual one, but okay. So the first one, I'll do it in chronological order. Um, the first one is in 2008 when I first came to Belize. I I was handling a crocodile, and this is where I also learned. as a woman, this has like tons of learning experiences. This particular story.
Okay.
One, 2008. I mean, working with crocodiles is still a very male-dominated field,
Mhm.
and back then in 2008, I mean, I was one of very few young females trying to really break it in the crocodile world, and I was getting tested a lot. And in my head at that moment, I felt like I had to prove that I could really handle crocodiles, just like the guys. I can
Mhm.
do this. I can do this. So there was a crocodile that needed to get relocated, and it was a 4.5, 5 foot Marlet's crocodile. Marlet crocodiles, they have very thick necks, and because their necks are thick and their heads are round, a lot of times they appear bigger than what they are.
Okay.
But anyways, someone's like, Marissa, can you catch this croc? And I was like, oh yeah, I got it. And I just went to a hand grab. I have very small hands. Like my hands have not grown since I was in fifth grade. What is that? 11, 12 years old? Like I literally my feet and my hands have not grown since fifth grade. So I grab with my left hand the neck of the crocodile, and with my right hand, I grabbed the tail. And that's when I was like, oh, Marissa, this is bad. This is bad. Like, I don't have a good grip because of my small hands. And so I was like, I told someone, get the tape, get the tape, get the tape. I'm trying my best to really restrain this animal. And that's when someone went to grab the tape. They weren't communicating very well. So I thought they had kind of already taped the mouth, and they didn't. And they let go a little bit of pressure of their hand around the snout. That crocodile felt that little bit lack of pressure around its snout, kind of jumped. It kind of freaked me out. But also at that point too, that's when I realized I was like, I don't have a good grip. When it jumped, I realized I didn't have a good grip.
Mhm.
And that crocodile, in a blink of an eye, bit the other person, jumped, grabbed my hand, and it sliced my hand open.
Oh man.
And I was like,
But you-
oh my gosh. And so that was a lesson of communication. And that's why with my team, I am very big on communication. Every little step of the way, we all talk. There's one person talking. There's not all this noise. Like it is clear cut. I have never had anyone on my team ever hurt. And I had to learn the hard lesson for the future. My hand still works. My hand still works. I do have a little bit of nerve damage in my two fingers, but overall everything works. Communication, but also it was at that point too, I had to take a step back and was like, okay, I can't handle an animal the way that my 6'3" male friend can, or colleague, because his hands are 3 times my size. And that's when I also had to learn, and I see this with all the young students, and I am telling you this right now. Anyone that's listening that feels like for you to be respected in the crocodile world, you got to be able to handle crocodiles. No, it's not that. Technically, you can teach anyone to catch a crocodile. Anyone can catch a crocodile. You have to understand your limits and your boundaries depending on your strength and everything else. I can catch a 9-foot crocodile. It might be a little bit different than my male colleague, but I can still catch a 9-foot crocodile. At the end of the day, it's can you do it safe? But what people will really respect you in the crocodile world and in science overall is, okay, you've got data. What are you going to do with it? People are going to respect you for what is outside of catching a crocodile. So no, if you're not good at catching the crocs, don't worry about it. No one's going to think that you can't, in a sense, be a crocodile biologist or a crocodile conservationist or scientist. That's okay. There's a lot of quote unquote crocodile scientists, but they're in the lab the majority of the time. It doesn't matter. So, and that's something because obviously everyone wants to be able to capture a crocodile, and I get it, but if you're not good at it, I mean, all of us still miss, you know what I mean? But it's like, don't focus on the capture. Focus on everything that comes out. That's where you're going to gain the respect in your career. So that's, and that, again, I had to be the one to learn the hard lesson to be able to provide this wisdom to those that are younger than me. That's
Absolutely.
okay.
That
That
too.
was,
I see a lot of people
yeah.
in the industry that are trying to catch them more than they're actually working on the other side of things too. And that's like not even the most important part.
Yeah. It's really not, I mean, there are going to be people who are like, oh my God, like, oh, my friend slash who is also a student of mine, Miriam, she is awesome at catching crocs. And people will be like, Miriam knows how to catch crocs. Like, she's amazing. But so yeah, you might get that, but really at the end of the day, and Miriam knows it too, it's what is she going to do with the data collected? How can she use that to really assist in the conservation of crocodiles and alligators? That's where you're going to gain the main respect,
Absolutely.
So that was my first experience. The second one was, and actually, it's funny. It was with Miriam. Miriam was needing to catch crocodiles for her master's thesis. And we were on this key called Cape Cocker in northern Belize. And we knew people were feeding about a 12-foot crocodile. And this crocodile has taken dogs. This crocodile has bit people. Like, it's a very aggressive, habituated crocodile because people were feeding it.
Mm-hmm.
So we see about a 3-4 footer in this little mangrove cove. We jump off the boat to try to catch it. And, it wiggles away into the mangroves. We couldn't get it. But we knew we were in Scarface's territory. That was the croc's name, Scarface. And we turn around, and that 12-foot crocodile is blocking, in a sense, the opening of the cove for us to get to our boat. So we're kind of trapped in this mangrove cove with the 12-foot crocodile that we know has no fear of humans. And I just remember turning around and telling Miriam, I'm like, Miriam, it's Scarface. And she's like, oh my God. I was like, we need to be slow. And I said, get next to me because we need to look big. And so, because right now the water is waist high.
Okay.
And I'm 5'4", Miriam's 5'6". It was like up to my waist. I remember that. And I just told Miriam, I was like, be slow. And it's so crazy because a week prior, I was talking to a colleague and we were discussing what happens if you're in a corner with a predator. What do you do? So this was absolutely fresh in my mind. I was like, oh my God, that conversation happened for a reason. So I told Miriam, I was like, I was like, do not slap the water. Because I could tell it seemed like she was about to slap the water, but you slapping the water to a male crocodilian, I'm challenging you. That's a big no-no. I don't want to challenge that animal. And so I told her, I was like, be quiet, be still. If we start panicking, he's going to come towards us because he knows that we're scared. We have to stand our ground. And I remember talking to my friend Sean about this, whether it's a lion, a crocodile, whatever, you need to stand your ground. Because that animal, you standing your ground, that animal is going, oh, they're not afraid. This could be a competitor. And really at the end of the day, no one really wants to fight because no one wants to get hurt. And that's why, like, even in crocodilian battles, there's usually they do mock biting or they're circle around and they're just showing themselves off trying to scare each other. They don't really want to fight at first. So I go, Miriam, let's just slowly start kind of walking towards the boat. And so we're slowly walking to the boat in a calm voice, because your voice can also illustrate fear. So in a very calm voice, I just remember going, Tony, Scarface is here. drag the boat over because it was a very shallow area, and that's why Miriam and I had to jump out to try to catch the other croc. So he and the other people on the boat are utilizing mangrove to pull the boat closer to us. Miriam and I are getting close, close, close. And so Miriam's right next to the boat. And I was like, on three, you're going to grab Miriam into that boat. And I was like, and I have to be right behind it because the moment she splashes, that's going to be a cue in his head that scared, injured, and he's going to come after me. So I was like, is everyone ready? And he was like, one, two, three. They grab Miriam. Miriam jumps. They grab Miriam. You hear the splash, and all of a sudden, that splash, I see a 12-footer beaming towards me. It was, I literally had like my life flash before me. It was just this, I blacked out for a second, and I just tell people, I was like, I became a Jedi Knight. I used the Force and flew out of the water. Like it's still, I can't really tell you what happened, but I know I jumped almost immediately after Miriam, and someone just grabbed me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was like, oh my God, like that was intense. That was intense. And then we tried to catch the 12-footer, but he got scared and ran away. Um,
Be
so that one
scary.
was really, yeah, that one was intense. And then a fun one, I guess you can say. I see people touching or petting crocodiles, and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. How could that ever happen? And we had a crocodile come to us from up north. She was, in a sense, grandfathered in by these people that lived next to the zoo. And the Fosters were, they were filmmakers. They won a couple of Emmys for their nature documentaries in the 70s and the 80s. And they had these two crocodiles, but as they got older, they couldn't care for them, and so they came down to us. And one of these crocs, so one of the crocs, well, actually, both of the crocs that came down to us, they filmed with Steve Irwin in 2003 when he was here in Belize.
Okay.
And the one croc, Sam was chasing Steve Irwin, like aggressive, trying to bite him, all this stuff. And she comes to us, and I had some connection with her. And unfortunately, she did pass away a few years ago. And I have a picture of it, but I was able to pet her. She would come up to me. I could touch her. She was docile. I mean, complete different croc than what you saw with Steve Irwin. Absolutely, completely different. And I will never forget that. That was an experience. Like, that was a true experience to be able to have this connection where for whatever reason, this animal felt comfortable, safe. I don't know what it was, but I was able to pet her like a dog.
That's amazing. I love those connections.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing those with me.
Mhm.
I'm about to get kicked off here in a second. My phone
No
is
worries.
being a little weird. But right before we go, I just wanted to share your social medias and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find the Crocodile Research Coalition on our website. We have Instagram, X/Twitter, Threads, YouTube. So you just Google or search for Crocodile Research Coalition. Then also I'm on Instagram and Threads as Doc _ Tellez 13. So you
Okay,
can find me on my social media there.
perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with me.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.